On the morning of February 28, 1997, two men fired over 1,000 rounds of armor-piercing ammunition into the streets of North Hollywood. The audio logs from that Friday confirm a continuous, unbroken chain of automatic gunfire, lasting exactly 44 minutes. We are not looking at a spontaneous bank robbery. We are analyzing a calculated, deliberate military-style siege orchestrated by two civilians. The prevailing narrative suggests this was a sudden escalation of urban violence.
Actually, let me correct that.
The evidence proves this was the final stage of a multi-year data experiment, an experiment designed to test the absolute limits of human invulnerability.
To understand the deviation, we have to establish the baseline. Emil Mătăsăreanu was a Romanian immigrant. He possessed a severe congenital heart condition. By high school, his weight had spiked to 350 pounds. He was socially isolated, physically vulnerable, and relentlessly bullied. He eventually enrolled at Gold's Gym in Pasadena, merely to regain a baseline of control over his own anatomy. Larry Phillips Jr. was operating in the same facility, a high school dropout who quickly realized he lacked the genetic markers required for professional bodybuilding. These were not criminal masterminds. They were two highly insecure men, acutely aware of their physical limitations. Therefore, they sought an external mechanism to command authority. When the biological body fails to project power, the human mind will often attempt to synthesize it through hardware.
They began testing their capabilities. Minor cons, small property scams. The yield was low, but the data they gathered was crucial. In the early 1990s, Los Angeles banks were responding to a localized epidemic of robberies by implementing exploding die packs, randomized cash delivery schedules, and compartmentalized vaults. To counter this, Larry and Emil adopted what we can classify as the asymmetric overmatch protocol. If the system hardens, you do not outsmart it, you outgun it. In 1993, they ambushed an armored car. They escaped cleanly, but an anomaly occurred months later. A routine traffic stop in a rented car revealed their entire loadout: 2 assault rifles, 3,000 rounds of ammunition, improvised explosive devices. They were arrested on the spot. Therefore, the system should have permanently neutralized the threat, but a judicial discrepancy allowed them to serve minimal jail time. This systemic failure did not deter them. It validated their belief that they were untouchable. But invulnerability is a mechanical illusion.
Let us analyze the loadout for February 28th. This is where the technical preparation intersects with biological failure. Larry layered Kevlar over heavy steel trauma plates. He wrapped his arms and groin in improvised ballistic material. More importantly, he ingested phenobarbital. This is a potent central nervous system depressant typically used to manage seizures. Why would a man preparing for a tactical engagement consume a heavy sedative? Because he understood the biological response to adrenaline. He wanted to artificially suppress his heart rate to maintain fine motor skills under extreme duress. They believed they had effectively deleted the human variable, but the environment refused to comply.
Inside the Bank of America on Laurel Canyon, the master timeline shattered immediately. They allocated precisely 8 minutes for the extraction. They anticipated a central vault containing $750,000. Instead, the physical architecture of the bank betrayed them. The vault was partitioned into individually locked dispensers, each requiring separate keys. The randomized cash delivery had further depleted the available yield. They secured less than half of their projected target. As Emil carried the duffel bag toward the exit, the hidden die packs detonated. Their 8-minute window expired. The mechanical plan was dead. At 9:16 a.m., they step outside. The external cameras capture Larry raising a heavily modified HK-91 assault rifle. The LAPD patrol officers arriving on the scene are equipped with standard 9mm Berettas and 12-gauge shotguns. The ballistics of this confrontation are fundamentally incompatible. A standard 9mm round travels at approximately 1,200 feet per second. When it impacts Larry's steel plating, the kinetic energy disperses without penetration. The officers are categorically pinned down. They fire over 200 rounds with zero structural effect.
The hardware was functioning exactly as Larry designed it, until the physics of a legal modification introduced a fatal flaw. The symmetry deviation occurs precisely when Larry needs his weapon the most. His rifle, which was illegally altered to fire fully automatic, experiences a catastrophic feed malfunction. The casing fails to eject. The chamber jams. Here is the paradox. If you drug your own nervous system to remain calm, how do you generate the panic-induced strength required to clear a jammed steel bolt? You don't. The phenobarbital, combined with severe blood loss from a stray bullet that bypassed his armor and struck his unprotected shoulder, degrades his fine motor skills. He drops the weapon. He transitions to a pistol. But the machine has failed him. At 9:52 a.m., Larry's timeline ends on the asphalt.
Emil attempts to exfiltrate in a commandeered pickup truck. He drives slowly through the residential grid, firing through his own windshield. But the data proves he made a terminal calculation error. He fortified his torso, his chest, and his back. He neglected his lower extremities. The LAPD SWAT division arrives equipped with AR-15s. They recognize the heavy upper body armor configuration. They simply adjust their optical alignment downward. They bypass the Kevlar entirely.
Emil absorbs 29 rounds to his unprotected legs. The human vascular system contains roughly 5 liters of blood. It cannot maintain pressure under that volume of targeted trauma. The femoral and tibial arteries collapse. Emil bleeds out in the street, waiting for a rescue that was never mathematically possible.
The 44 minutes in North Hollywood forced the absolute militarization of modern American policing. The AR-15 became standard patrol issue. But beneath the tactical historical marker lies a quieter, clinical truth about self-deception. What did these men think they got right? And what did the data prove they got wrong? They believed that with enough steel, ammunition, and chemical suppression, they could engineer out their own fragility. They thought they could armor themselves against consequence. But consequence always finds the exposed flesh.